Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks so much for being here with me tonight. And guess who I have with me tonight? Linda Potter. Welcome, Linda. Thanks for joining me tonight.
It's so exciting to be here. One of my most favorite subject matters.
I know. Would you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, I'm a hypnotist with a specialty of past life regression, and I use hypnosis for healing purposes, both physical and emotional. And I think the connection that I have tonight with this show, Noreen, that I love that you're doing this show, is because of who your guest is.
Oh, yes. And tonight, everybody, we have Daryl Sims. Daryl, thanks for joining us tonight. Now, Daryl is known as the Alien Hunter. So, Daryl, before we start the show, would you please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, please?
Certainly. I'm glad to be on the program tonight and with you, Noreen and Linda. I am the best way to describe me is it's growing at an alarming rate. The doctor says we got to stop it. The fact is that I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of Texas, and I am called the Alien Hunter by different people for the last, since 1994, actually. And that was a term that was given to me by a journalist. Because she said, "Oh my God, you hunt them," and I said, "I do. I look for them that I hunt them that hunted me and hunted my son." And the fact is that I'm also an investigator in the UFO field in a very technical sense. I'm wearing my scrubs right now from a mock surgery we did tonight for a UFO group, and in that we were describing artificial insemination and how that could occur without the doctor even finding it out, or even you. And you could still be the recipient of that kind of a circumstance. But basically what it is I look for is physical evidence in these cases. I mean, the stories are wonderful and they're great and all that, but if we don't have any evidence and we can't present that in a forensic setting, then our boat's kind of sunk. We're back there 50 years ago where people were saying all these great stories, but there was no evidence. And the fact is there is good evidence out there if you know how to find it.
Okay, so Linda and I are going to ask you some different questions tonight, but I'm going to start off. All right, angels and demons or aliens? Okay, this is a question that's often debated among scientists and theologians when it comes to the UFO phenomena. So, are ETs angels or demons?
They're neither. The angels, angelic beings, are in fact number one, are heavenly entities and so on, and they do not abduct people, and they do not cut body parts off of people and things like that. The alien does. They are not demonic because demons. What demons do is inhabit someone because they don't have a body. It's that simple. And aliens have a body, and they don't inhabit anybody. They literally look for someone to abduct and to do various things to. So that's the bottom. That's the short answer to it. If an entity has a body like an alien does, then he can't be a demon because a demon is a discarnate spirit. It's a spirit that does not have a body.
Okay. Now, the alien body. Okay, I've been so curious about this. The alien body. What they present themselves to the abductees, and each from I've read a book called The Chosen, and under hypnosis she had quite a few cases, and each one of those abductees had a different description of the alien that abducted them. Why isn't it the same looking alien? Why are they all different?
One of the reasons for the alien appearing different to different people is the fact that they use a screensaver memory, which is often either a dream or a nonsensical creature that they can use to project the idea that the event never really occurred. And if a hypnotist is not very good at what they're doing, and I'm not picking on anybody here, but I'm a master hypnotherapist, that means I certify people who become hypnotists. And I'm also a hypnotic anesthesia therapist, which means I take people to surgery with hypnosis so they don't have to use a general or local anesthetic if needed. My point is that the number of people who are doing hypnosis are simply hypnotizing the person's screensaver memory. In other words, what the alien intended for them to remember, not necessarily what did happen. And if that happens, you will go into a nonsensical story that was actually unending in most cases, and you will come up with all kinds of imagery that, in fact, is not the alien. We actually have some photography of the alien, so we have a pretty good idea of what he actually is and what he isn't.
So when some of these abductees are hypnotized and they'll say, oh, yeah, there was an alien that was really nice to me, and they look just like us.
The fact is that there are several different entities I call the usual suspects. One of them is the gray, the little short guy, and the other one, he's got an IQ of about 80. And then the next taller one that looks just like him, but he's bigger, is often referred to as the doctor, and he's a lot smarter. And if he's going to be cutting on you, he'll probably be the one to do it. Then there's a mantis-like being, and then there's a human-type being, which is sometimes referred to as a Nordic. There are other beings, two other beings in primary to think about, and that is the Bigfoot type creature, which kind of looks like a Wookiee. And then the other creature that is worth mentioning is, in fact, the reptile type creature. All 7 of these are actually models. These are not alien races from other planets, in my viewpoint. They are models that you're looking at, and they're all on the same database. If one of them has ever abducted you, they all know who you are.
Oh, really? So, okay, but, you know, Daryl, how can these aliens come from another planet and come to our planet and you know, like they say they're walking among us, but how can they adapt to our planet?
Well, first of all, let me let me shock your audience to begin with, so they're not bored with just another review, another interview. I have been an abductee since I was 4 years old. It stopped violently at age 17. My son is an abductee, and several of my family are abductees. It often happens in the same family lineage. But when the question is asked to me, have I ever seen an alien, my response usually is, you mean like an alien from another planet, period? And they say yes. And I said, in my opinion, no. Well, what is it that you saw? What abducted you? I said something that was made, manufactured, hatched, or cloned, and the DNA came from this planet, was taken somewhere else in outer space, in my opinion, probably in the local neighborhood, on a craft, and remanufactured. It's called a transgenic being, into these 7 models that we're now looking at. These entities didn't come from other planets. They don't come from other worlds. They come from planet Earth. If you look at the biology of every one of these entities, first of all, just look, where are you going to find a reptile DNA? If you cut, probably planet Earth. Where are you going to find a praying mantis DNA? Probably planet Earth. Where are you going to find human DNA? Probably planet Earth. Where are you going to find a Bigfoot type creature like a simian or a monkey or an ape-like creature? Probably planet Earth. So where does the DNA come from? Probably planet Earth.
Oh, my God.
But better than that, we actually have some of the DNA. And guess what?
What?
It's from planet Earth.
So these aliens aren't coming from other planets from outer space. They're right here on our Earth. What are they, under the water?
They want you to think they're from another planet.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, so then they're living in caves under our ground, or they're in submersibles in the water? That's where they're living?
Well, I think that they actually do. They do dwell on craft. We have a video of a craft 50 miles thick, 600 miles across, near the moon, and we had 8 people taken on that craft at one time, and they all came back with evidence of the fact being real, and some physical evidence from the event as well. My point is that the entities are made, manufactured, and hatched and cloned, in my opinion, there on the alien GM plant, so to speak, this massive craft, and that's where a lot of the work takes place. So they create these beings. They're called transgenic beings. And the question is, are they demons or are they angels? They're neither. But in my opinion, what they do is pretty evil. And I don't think that they themselves are evil. I think their makers are probably evil. And the fact is that these entities, in my view, are only doing what they're told to do. And that's like a lieutenant in the mafia. Did the big guy do it all bad? No, he didn't. He told everybody else what to do, or they knew what to do, and so they carried out his bidding.
So, then did you have a question?
No, I'm following you. Go for it.
Oh, I'll be damned. So, okay, because I always wondered, when people see UFOs and there's so many sightings, how come we don't have our aircraft coming out there checking them out? Because our skies are on radar and they check to see if there's anything that doesn't belong there, but you never see any Air Force going out there checking them out.
And if I can interject right here, I was just listening to Daryl on another show, and he talked about, and you correct me here, Daryl, if need be, but he was talking about the fact that satellites are able to read 2,300 miles down, can read the face of your watch. And so if they can do that, how can they miss something like a craft?
They don't miss it at all. This is called the DSP program. It's a defense systems program of over 20 satellites in geosynchronous orbit. And two of the people that worked at DPS are actually abductees of mine. So the fact is that DPS has every major, what UFOs are referred to in their lingo. They don't call them flying saucers. If you use that term, they'll ask you to get out of the building. But if you use the term fast walker or slow walker, which means an object that's moving fast or slow that's not a regular aircraft, they know what it is, you know what it is, but you have to speak their terms or they won't talk to you. They have every one of those registered since that program has started. In other words, if the government came forward and told you, gave them a date, time, and place of a fast walker or UFO came to your house and picked you up and the event was real, I promise you they have that event on that date, time, proper ascension, declination of that object. And they don't know what went on, but they know it was at your location.
Oh.
And I've seen some of those logs, by the way.
Oh, my. How did you get to see them?
Well, I could tell you, but I have to kill myself. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
No, the DSP satellite guy and I were talking about it, and he told me how I could find that information. And so what I said is, well, I'll just go down and get it. And he said, please don't do that. And I said, why is that? And he said, if you do it, he said, it'll all become classified within 30 days.
Oh, my God.
He said, tell me what you want. And let me go get it. Then there won't be any problem.
Okay, so how much? So they don't want us to know any of this, and so how much is the government involved in this?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the government in reality. The government overall doesn't know anything. The government overall is just these people who work in government offices who call themselves civil servants, but the fact is they're really civil masters. And if you don't believe that, don't do what they say, and they'll prove to you just how wrong you are. It's social security office or any other place. The point is that the government at large doesn't know anything. If you go to the front door of the CIA and say, "I want to know all about flying saucers," you won't get that far. But if you did, they look at you and say you're nuts. You know why? Because they don't know what you're talking about. But the real question is, who does know? And every one of the people know in the top levels of these organizations. Central Intelligence Agency, NSA. NSA is 8 times the size of the Central Intelligence Agency, if you want to know how big NSA really is. If you have any worries, that ought to be your worry. The second thing is that Office of Naval Investigations and many of these other alphabet soup organizations, the top people in those organizations that are in the UFO program are all witting. That means they all know. But the rest of the people in the Air Force, the other places, and so on, they don't have a clue. They don't know what you're talking about. And they don't. They're not privy to that information. And these idiots that come on these radio programs say, "Oh, I know all about it, and I got a friend sitting in NSA, he tells me everything in the world." That's the biggest lie he ever told.
Really?
I was in Central Intelligence Agency for 2 years in covert operations, and I guarantee you, if I started blurting out all these top secret information, I'd be in jail overnight. These people sitting there saying all that, "Oh, I got these secret people sitting inside telling all this stuff." It just ain't so. It is not true.
What about the Men in Black?
Men in Black. Oh, that's a great subject. The Men in Black are twofold. Number one is there's a group of people called the Men in Black that are really the alien phenomenon. And they're real. They especially started up their business up back in the 50s and 60s, especially. And then the government got wise to these guys doing their thing and started mimicking them. So now you had government agents, most of them from at that time during the Air Force, and they would dress in black suits with black horses, drive these sedans and so on. Very similar, so people couldn't hardly tell the difference between who was government or who wasn't, and so no one really knew. But the fact is that there is a difference between the two. There is, in fact, a government program that is a MIB program, and I can prove it 100%. I just had it verified the other day at the highest levels of government that I could go to. And I know who one of them is. I've got his address, and I'm going to confront him publicly.
Okay, so, I always heard that there was a pact made between our government and the aliens, that the aliens could abduct us and do whatever they wanted to us. And then the government wanted them to stop, and then the aliens wouldn't stop. What is that? Is that any truth to that?
Well, and I don't know all, so I can't answer every question. I mean, I have an opinion, and my opinion is based on about 40 years of research, and the fact that I was a volunteer during the Vietnam War, was senior military police officer, 728 Military Police Battalion in Korea, and I was in the Central Intelligence Agency for 2 years. So my answer is based on that credibility, and I can't prove to anyone, beyond that. I mean, I don't know how to make anybody believe anything, so I don't try to. I just give them the information. They can do whatever they want with it. In my view, there is no quote-unquote contract with the government and the aliens to do anything. First of all, I never met an alien that sat down and wrote me a letter about anything. They don't write, so to speak. Number two, if they lie consistently, they always have. They've never told the truth about anything, where they're from or who they really are. They keep telling where I'm from, Planet Ban or Planet Ban Lawn. Well, that's a material, and the other one's a deodorant. You're from Planet Deodorant. That's really good. But they don't care. They just tell these stories to people because people keep believing them. And they must be true. Well, if they've told a different story to every culture that's ever been around for 6,000 years, then, look, I used to be a police officer. If I find a body laying there on the floor and 8 witnesses standing around it and a knife in its back, and everybody's standing there, and I asked everybody what happened, and everybody looks at me and says, I don't know, guess how many people get to go to jail? All of them. Because all of them, at least 7 of them are lying. Because it only happened one way, and especially if they tell me 7 different stories. They're all going downtown. Because it didn't happen 7 different ways. The alien didn't get here 7 different ways.
Okay, so Daryl, all right, so they came from another planet, and they came here. And our government knows about these, they know that they're in the water, that they know that they're underground, that they have their laboratories or whatever it is that they do. They know about.
Okay, let's qualify those 2 points.
Okay.
The government. When we say the government, I'm meaning specifically the people who do know. The answer to that question is yes. Second question, how do you get rid of them? Or what do you do with them? Well, not a whole lot in public because there are people who be witnessing it. And sometimes you'll see UFOs chased by aircraft or by other things. I can show you some fabulous film footage from the space shuttles, and you can see it yourself if you're careful and look at it close. STS, what is it, 48? You can actually see missiles being fired or laser-like objects fired from from the ground up at UFOs in the shuttles, watching the whole thing. It's on YouTube. I mean, this is not secret film. You just have to be careful and look carefully at what you're seeing. So the question is, do they get away with it? No, not all the time. But the fact is that whatever they're carrying on, the government can't just go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to tell the rest of the Army and the rest of the military we got a big problem." Really? And you never bothered to tell 99% of us? There's going to be a real problem with that. And number 2 is, how do you keep all this stuff quiet when the fact is you back engineered some of this stuff yourself, and some of the UFOs you're looking at are not them, they're us.
Yeah.
Wow. Linda, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, Daryl, I have a question on the abduction aspect of all of this, or however you want to term that. I know with your own personal history, you were taken to your memory at 4, and it stopped when you were 17. Is that right?
Yes, my event started at age 4. I remembered the event consciously. I've never had hypnosis to recover the memory. I remember my entity carefully, and he was a very white, skinny, bulbous head with large black eyes that were perfectly round. They were not the Hollywood version of the elliptical eyes. They were perfectly round. And he was walking away from me when I sat up in my bed, and I never knew this until later. But what I was watching, it was the end of the event. He was leaving. He just brought me back.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
anyway, long story short is I had about 10 events between 1952 and 1965. For 13 years, I had about 10 events. Last one ended violently, and I thought, yay, it's over, and that's it. And then they came back with my son. And when they did that, the war started me at age 4, really. But it really cranked up whenever they got my son.
So
at that point, all bets are off. I mean, you mess with me, I can live with it. You mess with my children, and I will end you.
Well, when your son was messed with, how old was he?
6 years old.
All right. Were you able to stop the event, or was he returning?
The events continued. In fact, his first event, I woke up in the morning. Nothing had happened in my events for like nearly 10 years, and nothing. And I woke up in a cold sweat at 2:30 in the morning, ran past his room, because I knew in the dark he wasn't in that room.
Yeah.
And I ran into the living room, and there he was, standing there. Just brought him back, and he was looking out the back door. I watched him for a long time, and he looked at the he was in a deep trance, and I said, "What are you looking at, David?" And he said, "At the little red light." The little red light that's just a screen memory, so you won't remember. There was no red light. Forget that. It's not it.
Right.
Anyway, the point is that my wife walks in at that point, looks at him, and looks at me, and says, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And then I had to belly up to the bar. I'd never told her about my abduction events.
Oh, my.
And she says, "Are you telling me that now it's him?" And I said, "It appears so, yes."
So, Daryl, were you ever able to stop his abductions at all after you discovered this was happening to him?
I was able to curtail them to some degree, in my opinion. And now his wife, he married a Brazilian lady who's an abductee who fled Brazil to get away from the alien, thinking if I move to America, they won't come here.
Of course.
Americans don't have these problems. Well, they do. They still continued for her. But their abductions stopped for both of them, and in my opinion, it was due primarily to prayer.
Okay, so that's what you would attribute stopping the abductions would be prayer. Is that what you've?
Well, I have about 10 different things that I recommend to people. Some people don't like a spiritual approach. Some people have their own. They want to be New Age, or they want to be whatever. I don't care. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
Just do whatever works, And I don't pick on people about what it is they choose to do or not do. One guy says, a lady came down here from San Francisco, and she said, I said, have you ever done anything found anything that would stop these guys? And she said, yeah. She said, I use the name of Jesus. And I said, why is that? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, as I understand it, you are a Buddhist priestess. She said, yes. I said, well, why in the world would you use the name of Jesus if you're a Buddhist priestess? She said, Mr. Sims, I may be a Buddhist priestess, but I'm not stupid. She said, I use what works. She said, for me, that worked. So I said, well, that really makes sense. So it doesn't make any difference to me whether she's a Christian or not. If she was able to use the name of Jesus and get that help, then that was fine for me. I mean, I said, whatever floats the person's boat, whatever works, you need to be doing.
Well, this is the thing. I spoke to someone recently who made a blanket comment that people aren't getting abducted these days like they used to be. The comment was that the last 10 to 20 year window, it really has stopped. There's no reason for them to do it anymore because of the cloning that they've done, and they've got enough of us. And in my own personal experience, I've had people come to me that have recently had abduction experiences. They claim to be. In all fairness, I haven't spoken to them in great length at this point, but they're starting to come out of the woodwork. And I know my own last experience was just before I met you, and so that's more recent. So I guess my question is, what comment do you have to make on someone that makes that blanket kind of a statement?
Sure, I'll be glad to comment on it. They're uninformed or misinformed. The reason I know they're misinformed is because I have 1,650 cases worldwide. We have no shortage. And I assure you, I am not the only UFO investigator out there.
Yeah.
There is no shortage. Business is good.
So
aliens having plenty of... And the idea that they're only abducting people for cloning or some crap like that, I'm sorry, that just doesn't work. And again, this is an opinion that's uninformed.
Yeah.
I deal in the DNA aspect of this, not because I make up something and say, these are the facts. That doesn't mean anything. The question is, do you have any DNA? Well, if you don't, then you don't have a whole lot of room to talk. Because every bit of that is just bloviating about, well, I think this. Well, what you think doesn't mean a lot if you can't prove it. If you go to court and tell the court, well, I think this is happening, they'll throw you out the front door. If you're not an eyewitness, you can't testify to a fact yourself, then you're not going to be used as a credible witness. It's that simple. So people making statements like that to me doesn't mean a thing.
Okay.
I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying they're uninformed or misinformed.
Well, I just wanted your opinion on that. And one last thing about the last abduction that you recall having when you were 17, you made a comment that there were two entities that were involved in this event that has not been written about in UFO literature before. Can you expound on that anymore, Daryl?
No, but I will. The reason I do not tell anything hardly about that event other than just the very basics is because the entities that showed up in that event are not in the UFO literature. Okay. In fact, the entities, the one particular entity that was involved, that one of them, has only been seen by 8 people that I've ever met in 40 years. And every one of them that saw him, their lives were wrecked, was a good term. Wrecked, changed, altered, almost ruined. My son saw him at age 6. At age 6, and I barely survived it at age 17.
So we're saying that it's
my son looked at me at age 6, and we were walking down the street one day, and out of the clear blue, he said, "You know how I used to protect people all the time? You know, guys picking on girls on the bus and all this and everything." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're a real protector. You're a real go-getter." He says, "I'm not like that anymore, Daddy." He said, "Something has changed my consciousness. I don't care about people."
Very interesting comment from a 6-year-old.
If you meet this guy, I promise you, you will not be the same after it's over.
Oh, my God.
Very interesting. So he's a specific caliber of, shall we call him an alien?
I don't think it's the correct thing to say that call him an alien. The alien, first of all, the best way to describe, if they're in the alien hierarchy, if you want to use that term, a hierarchy of the alien in these 7 models that I've described, in these models, if there was an SS, MIBs are a different thing. If there's a mistake made in an event and the alien can't fix it, they call a MIB. He'll fix it. But when you have a bigger problem, it can't be fixed by a MIB or anybody. People don't even realize that there's something. It's just something like an SS of the alien. You'll hardly ever see them, but if you do, you won't see them but once, and most people won't survive it.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So, Daryl, who are the chosen ones? How do they pick the one that they want to abduct?
Oh, okay. The abductees, they're all basically in the same vein, in as much as the alien picks these people. 45% of these people will be Native American, Indian, Irish, Celtic. Up to 31% of them will have a rare drug allergy to procaines, the xylocaine, novocaine, bupivacaine, any of the cane family. If you find out you're one of these people and you tell your doctor, you know, that novocaine doesn't work on you, he'll laugh in your face. Sit down and shut up. It's so rare we don't even test for it.
Oh my God.
But we have a whole list of stats that we have, and those that want to email me at go to alienhunter.org, and you click on my site there. You can email me. Just click on Alien Hunter, and it'll email me back. And I'll send you some stats and all kinds of fun things. It's all free.
Yeah, and I think on those...
that's what we do.
And those stats, Daryl, you've mentioned that 64% have low blood pressure, of the abductees have low blood pressure, and 68% crave salt.
Many of them crave salt, and what we'll do sometimes for support group meetings, we'll put health food on one side, and on another end of the table we'll put salsa, salt, crackers, and potato chips, anything salty. And it's like watching these abductees. They'll start with the health food stuff, many of them, but they'll gravitate and get over to the salt, and they remind me of a bunch of cattle at a salt lick.
Oh, wow. So, but why do they crave salt? Why?
We don't know. One of the reasons is that they may be suffering from a lack of potassium, or salt due to their events. Maybe this is extracted from them in some way or another because for some particular thing they're doing to these people. I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. But we've done some studies on it, but they're just studies. They're not. It's not science. But it is. But they're interesting studies that we've done.
So after someone's been they discovered that they've been abducted and they've gone through the hypnosis and all that, do they go to the doctor and have a complete physical to see if their body has changed at all?
Many of them do not, because they don't notice that, because they've lived so long with this stuff. This stuff, that people don't get abducted when they're 40 years old. When you figure it out at 40, one of the big shocks you're going to find out is this started when you were a kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, sometimes even younger. And the fact is, you're just now figuring it out. You're just now getting it. And the biggest shock comes not that you're an abductee, but that your stuff is it's just literally going on. I mean, it's been going on all this time. And the big thing for abductees, one of the things they find out about themselves is if they find out when they're young or old, doesn't matter, is that one of two things are going to happen to you. The first thing is either you're going to end up an abductee or a contactee. An abductee is a person like me. There are people who don't like what happened to them, and they basically, I call them the killer bees. You can steal our hunt if you want to. You can try to steal it, but you're going to pay the price if you get caught. The other people which is another program the alien runs, which is I call the honeybees. These are called contactees. These are people who think the aliens are here to save the planet, fix the ozone hole, and do all kinds of wonderful things for mankind, which they haven't done in 6,000 years at least, and are not going to do. But they keep promising all these people they're going to. And I call these people the honeybees because they actually think the funny little man in the white suit out there with the large black eyes stealing their honey is supposed to be doing that.
You know, the biggest offense to me with the abductions is the fact that, just like you said, people don't always wake up to it until they're a lot older, and this has been going on their whole life. And it kind of can set people up to having an emotional issue in different areas of their life. And
many of them cannot, many of them end up alcoholics, many cannot maintain relationships with people. It's a tragedy, and they think they're the problem, and they're not.
Yeah.
It's not them. It's what's been done to them.
So, Daryl, is it, in your opinion, the best way to go about this? Would it be not to use hypnosis at all? To
in my opinion,
help somebody? Yeah.
I don't think people should use hypnosis in the beginning. Whenever I handle a case, the very first thing I do is I do not run and hypnotize the person. What if you've got an incredible case? The first bullet going to be fired at you when the case comes out is that you hypnotized them and made them believe all that stuff. That's the first bullet fired at you.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is something I use at the end of the case if the person needs it or wants it, or if they want some therapeutic help or a cushion for their experiences or whatever. But one of the reasons I'll use hypnosis at the end of a case, when I am sure that it's over, is that I want to find out, like, for instance, I'll have some, what the day this happened. Well, this is June 13th, 1976. Okay. Is it really sunshine and hard that day? What is it? Hot? Is it cold? What is it? And they'll say, no, it's raining. It's the hardest rain we've seen in weeks. We haven't had any rain. It rained this day. And you can go back and check the weather services and see if that day that it was raining. I mean, tell me what happened June 6th in 1976 in your life.
Yeah.
No one knows the answer to that.
Yeah.
And if you make it up or they make it up under hypnosis, they're going to get caught lying.
Right.
One of the things I do is one of the skills I have is to determine whether people are lying or telling the truth to me just by watching them.
Sure.
I don't need to hypnotize them to find that out. I can sit there and talk to them, and about 2 or 3 minutes, I'll look at you and either take your case or smile at you and say, I'm sorry, we're so busy we can't take your case.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of saying I don't believe you. Beat it.
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of YouTube documentaries the other day, or actually all week long, and one of the abductees said that they were sexually assaulted by an alien that looked like a pig.
That's correct. In fact, I have the evidence of that case.
You do? So
I do.
what the heck
I
is
do.
that?
The lady was sexually assaulted on board a craft. The case actually was ultimately was Dr. Carla Turner's. And Dr. Carla Turner, before she passed away, she was a very good friend of mine. She gave me the physical evidence. And I said, what am I looking at? And she says, this woman was sexually assaulted on a craft, and this was a vaginal scraping taken from the case. And I said, okay. Any witnesses? She said a man came forward and later and came forward publicly and said, I witnessed her being sexually assaulted by this creature. And he described and all that. And anyway, she gave me the evidence and said, you're the only person I trust with it. And I said, okay. And I said, have you had it tested? And she said, I had a friend of mine who is a specialist in forensic work, and he took the evidence, looked at it, came back to me. He's been a friend of mine for many years. And he looked at me and handed this back to me, put it in my hand in a container, and said, don't ever bring anything like this to me again. He said, that compound cannot exist in that matrix. Don't ever use my name in association with this, and don't ever bring anything like that to me again, ever. And she said, he got really mad at me and never would tell me a thing about it. And what my suspicion is, I've got a DNA lady that's going to help us now, and we've already had 3 of them quit before they ever got started. So it'll be a sincere she stays. But that is one of the pieces of evidence that I will show her. What I suspect that we may find, and I don't know it's true, I suspect that we will find that some of these entities are in fact biomechanical. And the fact that what he may have found may have terrified him, because what he is describing, in my opinion, based on my limited view of what he may have been saying, is that what he saw was that compound that couldn't exist in that matrix was, number one, it was probably metallic or some substance like that mixed with a biological material. If that's true, that is simply impossible.
Yeah.
But we have the evidence, whatever it is. We will find out what it is.
So, Daryl, why are they doing these sexual manipulations on abductees?
Oh my goodness. Well, one of them is there are lots of reasons, but one of the big reasons, and it breaks my heart to have to say this to many. I worked with one lady, and there was an abduction event happening in Houston, Texas, and it involved the entire family. I mean, everybody, including the visitor who was visiting the boyfriend who was visiting the girlfriend there. And he never came back. He found his underwear folded at the end of the bed the next morning, and he's like, whoa. And anyway, that last abduction experience just destroyed the family, and they literally all split up. And I met with a lady. The mother finally came forward about a year later, and she was crying, and she said, and here's a good reason. Here's how people go to jail or get sued in multi-million-dollar lawsuits and they lose easy, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the difference between recall and memory. Anyway, the lady starts describing to me her doctor molesting her, and she describes him in great detail. And it's one of the 2 doctors. It's the assistant doctor. Now, I know it wasn't her assistant doctor that did that, but any hypnotist with a brain would have said, oh my God, we got a criminal case here. We're going to turn this guy in. You're going to jail, or you're going to get sued and lose big time. Because it's not the doctor. It is a doctor-like thing, but it's using the imagery of her doctor. It's not her doctor at all. It was the alien entity. And finally, I said, well, describe him if you see him, or if you see any part of him. Just let me know. I want you to tell me what your doctor looks like. Well, it's him. I said, I don't care about that. Just tell me if you see. If you don't, that's fine. At some point, she finally goes, oh, I do. Long, white fingers molesting her. So it wasn't her doctor at all. But many hypnotists, especially PhDs out in California, would take that to court in a minute and say, oh, my God, I got this guy. Well, you're going to lose, because somebody like me is going to come along and find out what really happened. And we're going to prove that doctor wasn't even in town, probably, when this event happened, and you're going to lose multi-million-dollar suit, and he may go to jail on top of that.
Well, that's a thing about this. The screen memories are so intense. I mean, the ability that they have just to creep up to you, look into your eye, or your eyes with their eye, and make you think that you just saw a clown or a deer or whatever they choose to do, but then to really screen your memory that well, that to me, I always have thought to be able to usurp that is the thing to do. How do you get to where if you're being taken, that you can not allow that, to keep your conscious memory conscious during an abduction?
Well, I've trained people to how to either wake up in an abduction or become conscious in an abduction. And one lady actually assaulted her captor and tore his eye cover off on 2 different occasions.
Now, Daryl, do you use hypnosis for that, or is it suggestion? What is it you're doing?
Well, I use a system. I understand a lot about how the alien thinks and his neurology, how his process is. And I have developed a system that they are more vulnerable to than we are of them.
Mm.
And so we've had that's about 5 people right now that have been able to do something to them or around them or not obey them whatsoever. And the alien couldn't do anything with them, and it thwarted the entire abduction. I teach kids how to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Because I like kids to be able to not be subject to them. Mom and Dad may not be able to wake up, but you can wake up if you truly want to.
Daryl, over time...
I don't think...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think God intended for anybody to be a slave of anybody else. And it's a mentality. And once you agree to that, or you accept it, or you go along with it, I don't care how that happens, you become a victim. And as long as you become a victim and stay a victim, then you can't be a conqueror. You can't be better than that.
Daryl, over time with the continued alien visitation, does the abductee begin to develop psychic powers?
It seems we're not sure whether it's the chicken or the egg in this circumstance. Some people say I became psychic after my abductions. Some people say I became psychic because of my abductions or as a result of the experiences, the horrific things that happened to me. And some people say it was just a gift from them or something like that. It's hard to say in every case, but the fact is that many of these people that are taken, and they're everything from geniuses to most people are just average people, but some of them are genius level, and we have some that are, and we have, but there are some of them that are just, they're so far down the food chain mentally that I'm not sure how they find food, and the alien still wants them anyway. So it's not based on you're special and unique and the best of the West and all that. That may be true, but it probably isn't overall. The fact is they're looking for certain things from people, and some of the certain things they need that doesn't require high IQ as your emotions. One of the things they love to do is harvest your fear. Mm-hmm. And sexuality, sexual passion, so on. And the question, and as I told this lady who came in, she cried and cried and cried when she found out it wasn't her doctor and saw what it really was, and then she said something. She just cried, and she said, "Why in the world would he do that to me? Sexually assault her." So what she meant, she's a very moral lady. And I said, "Sweetie, I'll probably never see you again, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the truth and let you go." And she's crying. She says, "Please tell me." I said, "Imagine, if you will, this entity has no sexual genitalia. He doesn't have a clue, but he knows what to do. He's been trained to do what he does. Think of him as a tape recorder, and he recorded every bit of that. For what?" And I said, "For someone else to enjoy."
Oh, really? So aliens have no sex organs?
They don't. The alien overall, the general alien, the greys, and so on. Many of these entities don't have any genitalia. I've got some pictures of actual aliens that you'll never see on the internet, and I assure you, they don't have any belly buttons and they don't have any genitalia. Mine didn't when I was 4 years old. That's the first thing I noticed about him. He didn't have any clothes on in the middle of winter. I was freezing to death in my little bed. And he turned around when I looked at him, and he didn't have any genitalia, and he didn't have a TT, and he didn't have a belly button.
But Daryl,
you don't have a TT, you don't procreate.
Okay, but wait a minute, Daryl. I thought, wait a minute. Oh, that's really. But Daryl,
yes.
But they can manipulate your mind, like you said, to have an image. So maybe they really didn't look like that. They just wanted to present themselves to you like that.
No, that's entirely possible. I have always considered that. But when I started getting photographs of these entities... Wait
a minute. How did you get a photograph of one?
Well, I can tell you, but I've killed myself. No, I'm just kidding again.
Come on, tell us. How did you get a photograph?
It's a CIA joke. It's a bad joke. It's a really old joke. The fact is that one of my abductees came into in 1994, I was having a support group meeting in Dallas, Texas. She walks in the front door and walks over to me right in the middle of the support group, and I couldn't believe what she did. She handed me 8 by 10 color photos of an alien, several alien entities in someone's backyard that she had just taken a few nights before. And then she gave me the negatives. That means she didn't fake them. And I almost fell clean over. Not only have the gray, and again, he doesn't look like the Hollywood version. He doesn't. He looks kind of like it, but not really. And the second thing is many of them are malformed. Imagine their DNA program not working that well, and they don't care anyway. It's not what they're about. And the second thing is the second entity that shows up in that photography that's amazing. It's coming toward them inside the house. It's outside the house, but it's coming through the plate glass window. Plate glass door, is a praying mantis-like being, knocking the gray out of the way to get to them.
Oh my God! So you have.
We meet sometime. I'll show them to you.
You have. What did you do with these? Has anybody else seen these pictures, or you just hold on to them?
I keep them, and I have other entities that I've got a lot better photography than that of an alien entity. And I assure you, they don't have any genitalia, and they don't have any belly button because they weren't born. These beings are hatched, cloned, manufactured, or made for the purpose of interaction with mankind.
Oh my God!
They're not made to be. They're not from other planets. They're from here. The DNA is from here. It's taken somewhere else. They make them out there. They bring them back here, introduce them to us, and we're like, oh my God, that's an alien from another planet. He told me he was from Babylon. Really? That's clothing.
Oh.
You bought into that, huh?
Okay, so.
Oh gosh.
So the other aliens are on their planet. They're out there on their planet, and these guys are here dealing with us.
Imagine there is no aliens on any planets. Now there may be millions of them out there, but the aliens that we're looking at right now, in my opinion, aren't aliens because they're from here.
But how?
They're not alien.
But how did that
the
all
DNA
happen?
comes from here.
But Daryl, how did that all
If
happen?
I got DNA and took you somewhere and made you into a human being and brought you back here, would you be from outer space or from here? Well, technically you'd be from here, but you'd be from outer space because that's where you were manufactured.
Okay, so but they got here on a flying saucer or on a ship.
Okay.
Is that
now,
what
a lot
they're
of people
living
say,
in?
well, you're wrong because they have all these abilities. And I said, wait a minute. I said, but before you start that diatribe, I said, let me ask you a question. Many of these guys only have 3 fingers and no opposing thumb. So, I said, how do you suppose they built a craft without an opposing thumb? It's total silence. Well, but they got here with this high tech. I said, the high tech doesn't mean they did it. I said, listen to me. If I go get a caveman, they go in, and we thaw out a caveman, and he's okay, and he walks into my house, and I said, oh, well, I'm really a hot shot. I'm like a million light years ahead of you. But he's going to believe every word of it. As soon as I flip that light switch in my house, he's going to freak completely out. Son! That's right, and I can do that just with my movement of my hand. Isn't that amazing? I'm magic. I'm Superman. He'll believe all kinds. When I turn the TV on and show him it's a time machine and play the movie 1 million BC, and he can see the dinosaurs or whatever it is he was wrestling with or eating on or whatever out there, he's going to think I have a time machine. It's called TV. I'm telling you, it's not hard to pull the wool over somebody's eyes if they don't have a clue.
Well, okay, so how do they eat? Do they talk to one another, or is it all through mental?
One of the most amazing things about abductees, and I ask them this all the time, where's the bathroom on the craft? And they look at me so funny, there is no bathroom.
Oh my God.
I said, isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah, okay.
Why do you think why don't they have a bathroom on the craft? Whatever it is they're doing doesn't do what we do.
And that brings
I'm writing a paper right now on how to make an alien. And you're going to find it fascinating. And the DNA that I have of an alien supports the view perfectly. Again, you have to have a baseline when you start your investigations. And if your baseline of data is correct, your viewpoint or your thesis is correct, then when you actually find physical evidence sometime in the future, guess what? It's going to support your baseline. But if it doesn't, and the physical evidence shows up and it debunks everything you got, then guess what? You need to get another view because you're wrong. Your stuff doesn't work. So your view is incorrect. Your model's wrong.
So it sounds like a robot.
Our model's working.
So Daryl, they don't sound human. Then they sound like maybe a robot type. If they're not eating or drinking, they don't go to the bathroom. They don't have sex organs.
Well, most of them don't, but there are a few that have been made, manufactured, hatched, or cloned now that do. And some of them are doing some pretty awful things to people, women in particular. It's not limited to women, but sometimes, most of the time it is. And it's just horrific and absolutely awful. It just breaks my heart when I hear this stuff. It just really makes me angry.
Now, Daryl, emotional component, do they have, in your opinion, are they dealing with any kind of an emotional quotient at all? I mean, they know when we're in fear. They certainly
they use your emotions on you.
Okay.
If they want to make you love, if they're told to make you love them, you will. When it's over, you're like, oh, I just love them so much. They're so wonderful. I can hardly wait to see them again. I love the blue man. He's so wonderful. Wow. And then whenever I work with them, even without hypnosis and take them back to that memory, even without hypnosis, they usually end up screaming insanely.
Oh my.
You know why? Because what they saw isn't what you get.
Oh my God.
I have one lady that she fell in love with Nordic. She said he's the best thing since sliced cheese. He's it. He is it. She loves him. And I took her out in front of PhD psychologists, psychiatrists, hypnotists, and others, and I hypnotized the hypnotist to show them the difference between, and I hypnotized this lady, and then I did stage hypnosis with her, and we have a lot of fun watching her, and she laughed and laughed. And she said, it was really fun, it was really neat, and all this great stuff. She described the whole thing. I said, sweetie, you never went anywhere.
Yeah.
You're on a bus out in the middle of nowhere doing all this stuff. I said, you never went anywhere, sweetie.
Oh my.
She said, oh, that's right. But you're acting like you did. That's like many of contactees right now. They think they remember everything, and they probably don't. But it was wonderful. Whatever it was incredible. And the next thing I did is grab a lady who just was in love with this Nordic. I mean, she thought he was perfect. I did not hypnotize her at all, and stood there and talked to her, did a couple of techniques, and was able to get her back to the very first memory, the very first time she ever saw this wonderful Nordic man. I just love him so much. And she screamed and screamed and screamed incessantly. I guess it wasn't him.
Oh my God. Why are they taking animals up in their craft?
Oh my goodness. This is one of the awful things of one lady who's an engineer out here out in Arizona. I'm in Texas, but she's in Arizona, and she told me she'd have the 34, the 36 things you have on your test. She said, or I came positive on. She said, I just don't believe it. I think all this is just a bunch of BS. I said, okay, I don't care. Doesn't bother me. It is what it is, you know. And finally, a year later, and I went back up there, she said, would you please work with me? And, you know, because I just know it's all BS, and there'll be nothing there. And hypnosis. I said, okay. And I said, only if you're ready. And she said, okay. And I worked with her. I mean, within 30 seconds, she was a little tiny girl, 3 years old, walking on the craft, looking around, horrified as she looked. And they told her, don't look in that room. She did. She looked over in that room and looked over and saw a cow being mutilated.
Oh.
She said the horrible thing about it, it wasn't dead. I said, sweetie, they're normally not dead. They want to harvest the emotions of the animal as well.
Oh my God, how horrible!
Well, that's like
whatever people think about the alien is just so different. I mean, they're watching too much TV.
Well, and you know there are.
Get into the data, look at the data, and you'll find the data is somewhat different. And you have to look at all the data, not some of it that supports your view, and the ones that don't we throw away. You have to look at all data because it's all relevant.
Yeah. I know as far as that goes, Anthony Sanchez wrote a book on Dulce in New Mexico, on the laboratory there, and talked about the animal mutilation and the people that have been kidnapped. Now, you know, the whole thing is that when you go into this, I like to call it going down the UFO/alien rabbit hole. There's so much information. You've got to be so discerning on, what sits right with you, but to look at everything. And then you throw into the mix your own personal experience. Like you, Daryl, you've had incredible experience. And I know it's changed my life, my own experience. When people say people just want to have this romantic idea about an abduction experience, well, I beg to differ with that one, because that is not something anybody that I know that has experienced it wants again.
Well, a lot of them are basing their ideas on these people who write it. Okay, good example. In the TV show we're on, Uncovering Aliens, one of our actors there, one of the investigators, he's a contactee. I'm an abductee. So we're different as night and day in that sense of the word. Now, I know that he's been hoodwinked, that I know he is literally experiencing alien Stockholm syndrome. I know that. But I'm not going to tell him, and I don't care, because I'm not there to brainwash him or to make him think what I think, because I don't care. I mean, he can believe anything he wants to, and he does. But one night I worked with an abductee whom he laid his hand on and said, "This guy is a 100% contactee. He is blessed and chosen of them and going to be invited to the dance," and all that. And I worked with the guy, and the guy's experiences were vastly different than what my colleague thought they were. I mean, he thought they were wonderful too, but whenever I worked with him, I'm telling you, it's the most ugly stuff you ever saw in your life came out. And it was verified by different people. But the most important thing was the guy drew a picture of a mantis being that scared my colleague, the contactee, who thinks they're all wonderful, and the Greys are just little helpers, and most of them are human-likes, and they're all wonderful people, and they're here to help us, and they're going to do all kinds of wonderful things for us, fix their own hole, do all the stuff they've never done for anyone. And then the bottom line is that he looked at that mantis being that guy drew, and I held it up in front of him, and he right on TV, in the middle of the shoot, looked at it and said, "I'm very uncomfortable with that. I never knew such things existed." And he ran out of the room.
Yeah.
And he is a 100%, hardcore believer that they are here to save the planet, fix the ozone hole, and do all of it.
Well, if they're here to save
he ran out of the room, and the reason is because he's seen that thing before.
Yeah,
now
of
he's
course.
re-remembering it.
Of course. And then the thing is, why do they need to come and mess with us at all? Number one, if they're so quote-unquote advanced, why are they coming in and taking us out of our bedrooms?
They're not advanced.
Yeah, exactly. And
number one, they're made, hatched, and cloned.
Right.
Carefully.
Right.
If I'm correct, they're hatched, made, and cloned by someone else for the purpose of interaction with mankind.
Yeah, and Carla Turner...
The alien's not in charge of anything.
No, Carla Turner put it so well about when you start thinking about this, the kumbaya thing, that we're all here to get together. Part of that, what Carla had said, was so beautiful. I mean, she was so special, not only in her experience, but her viewpoint and her background. And who is it that can come and vacuum us out of our cars, take us out of our beds at night, float us through the window? Why would we think that they would have such advancement if they're messing with us at all? I mean, it just doesn't make intellectual sense.
What kind of a beautiful, wonderful, great spirit out there in the universe goes out and mutilates cattle?
There you go.
And lets a little girl watch it.
Yeah.
See, it's not that they're immoral. It's not that they're immoral. They're amoral.
Yeah.
They do what they're told. The ones who are immoral are the ones who constructed, hatched, made, and cloned them, and caused them to do all this stuff. Now, that's a huge plan. But by and large, most people who are of the contactee mentality, and they're good people, they're nice people, I call them the honeybees. They're gentle, kind, wonderful people who just don't realize the funny little man in a white suit. It may be a suit, number one, and number two, he was not made to harvest honey from bees.
Okay, so
he's not part of the food chain.
What about harvesting of humans?
Oh, that's another story, and that's a horrific one. Someone was telling me the other day how wonderful all this, and you just don't get it. And I said, well, you're right. I could be completely absent of thought, and all that's possible. I said, but the fact is, I've got mutilation cases of human beings that you won't find on the internet. I said, one lady, 80-some years old, mutilated her own bed, and skinned alive. I said, don't sit there and tell me about how wonderful these guys are when they do things like this. I said, you don't see this stuff, and you don't want to know about it. And you people like you hide behind the UFO phenomena and the wonderful aspects of it, because you don't want to face the ugly side of this monster, this evil part of it. It's just horrific. And what they do to people, I said, every presentation I do, I start showing big chunks missing out of people. A big chunk missing out of the back of a guy's neck comes back from an abduction. A big chunks missing out of the back of his neck. I mean, a big chunk. I mean, 2 inches wide, about 4 inches long, and it just incredible. I mean, everybody looks this way. I said, now, what do you suppose the alien was harvesting there? DNA? Do you really need a 2 by 4 inch chunk of somebody's neck? Really? One lady comes back from her abduction event with half her labia missing. Oh, they needed it for some DNA work. Really? Anybody with a brain knows that you only need the minutest amount, and when that wears out, whenever that program's over, then he sends some of these little guys back out to do it again.
Oh my God!
Because he needs more. It's his dope. It's his dope.
Where's it going? Where do you see this going? I mean, we've come a long way since the Betty and Barney Hill story in the 50s. That was the 50s, right? 52-ish, or was it 40?
Yeah.
50?
It was in the 50s.
Yeah.
Where I see this thing going is, in the mass abduction, we had a mass abduction of 8 people in 2 states and several cities in 1992. In that mass abduction, an engineer was present, and the alien, the Nordic type guy, showed him a map of what reaction, the interaction they were having with mankind, and that map indicated. Of course, the engineer is real smart. He said there was a little section there was 100 years long, and of course that was unused, and we were in it at that time. And what the engineer did is, of course, multiply that little 100 thing, and it multiplied a bunch of times, and he realized that's approximately 6,000 years that they've been involved with us. Not 8 million years, not 2 light years, not any that about 6,000 years. And if that thesis is correct, on that map that they had, he said we're in the last 100 years. He didn't say how long, whether we're in 40 years, 60, 20, 30, 10, 5. We don't know how long that has expended itself yet. But he said when that is finished, he said it's over. And he did not explain what over meant or whatever. Nobody, we have no clue. I don't know what that means.
Do you get a sense of where you think it's going? I mean, we're getting smarter as far as...
I think they're screwed.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think they're done. I think their program is so done that something... Now let's speak on a positive side, Shell, for a moment. I think something angelic's going to show up, and I think they're in a lot of trouble. I think their show is going to hit the road, and it's going to hit the road hard.
Well, it's going to be interesting.
It is for a fact. We'll see.
Oh, I want to ask you about implants. How many different... I guess there's a lot of different implants, and what are they used for? The implant overall, the best overall quick definition of an implant is it is a foreign object installed that can be biological, can be metallic, can be ceramic, can be plastic, different types, and different things that are placed on it or in it is used to control, modulate, affect, or create, contain, or basically create a field around that implant that causes emotions to be collected, harvested, used, or expended by the alien for their purpose, not yours. Well, why are they all different?
Well, they're all different because they do different things.
Oh.
Some of them are installed in the brain. Some of them are installed in. First of all, implants are very rare. Every abductee I ever met always thinks they have an implant. Every one of them. I look at hundreds of X-rays every year, and I promise you, I've only done 24 surgeries thus far, and all of them were implants. They're just not. Now, there are people out there who are in these conferences will pull out their equipment and say, "Yep, you got 5 implants, you got 9 implants, you got 14 implants." It's not true. And I've talked to them. And they ask me questions like, "Did you find carbon nanotubes in yours?" I said, "Nope, never did." They're like mortified. You know why? Because I've got more implants than anybody out there, and I've been doing this stuff. I've found my first implant at age 12 in 1960 in my own event. I think I know a little bit more about this than they do, and they're making up scientific thesis to throw in there and use all these big scientific words and so on, but I assure you that that's incorrect and not consistent with what we found. The science that we did on these things did not show any of the stuff they said they'd found.
So is it fair
And
to
you got to
say...
realize that some of the things they said they found are by some of the most non-credible people I've ever seen.
Is it fair to say then the implants, the main purpose, the thrust of the implants is to manipulate your emotions so that they will be affecting the person that has the implant emotionally?
That is a good general statement. It basically creates a field, so to speak, around itself for the purpose of the alien to do whatever it is he needs to do, which may be to harvest emotions or to harvest information or download data and information. But the fact is, implants are extremely rare. Most people don't need to worry about them. Everybody wants to worry about them because they're the newest craze out there. But the fact is, they're so rare that people don't need to be worried about them.
Yeah.
The fact is, the alien can do most of whatever he wants to do without an implant. Trust me.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, because it's for abductees, it's kind of a creep factor that the possibility that they have something within them that doesn't belong. And I'm sure with your clients that have had implants, they're probably freaked out when they realize that.
And I can show you some things that might be useful to you, and I'm sure I can hear some things from you. Noreen, I love your program, and I like your audience. So,
thank you.
And
God bless you both, and I wish the very best to both of you.
One last question: is your show coming up again? Are you back
my
on?
Show, we were given an opportunity to shoot 4 shows, and that was what the contract was actually for, and that's what we did. And they've elected not to go forward with the program. That makes me a free agent, and I am out there hustling, and I love it. I enjoyed working with them, and a good group of people, great folks to work with, but I am a free agent, and I am working on my own show now. That's what I'm working on right now. My own show, and I can do what I want and have creative input on it. That's where I want to be. That's where I've always wanted to be.
Daryl, would you give everybody your website?
My website is alienhunter.org, alienhunter.org, and there's all kinds of fun things on there, and you can write me there just by clicking on Alien Hunter, and it'll email me immediately, and I'll send you a bunch of fun things. 99.9999% of things are free. I have a couple of books for sale, but that's it, and we just don't have a lot of things for sale because our primary interest is in helping people and letting them get the assistance they need, and it's a philanthropic effort. All the surgeries I did were done out of pocket by myself or doctors who helped. Wow. We don't charge for the stuff we do.
Daryl, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Daryl. It's really nice talking to you.
It was great. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Daryl, thank you so much.
All right. Take
Love
care.
Love you guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a kick. Thanks, Daryl, so much. I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. And Linda, would you please tell the viewers as well? You have a website, and you do also past life regressions.
Sure, yeah. It's lindapotter.net. Very simple. My email is on there. It's linda@lindapotter.net for any questions, anything at all. I'm always available for that.
And do you guys have any questions? Do you have any questions? Linda is also an abductee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you starting to do past life regressions now on abductees?
Well, I will see people accordingly if they have the issue, and it's something that I'll discuss individually with each client to see what it is they're dealing with. I think Daryl brought up some really valid points using hypnosis versus not using it. And I've been looking into this so deeply lately that I'm really walking very carefully with it. But the people that think that they've had these experiences need to have somebody to go to talk to about it. And a lot of times you're able to filter them in different directions, but at least help them to become okay with what possibly is going on. That's a big thing for me.
And you have a website? Did you give that to them?
Yep, I sure did. Yep.
You gave it to them?
I did.
Oh, I wasn't listening.
No. That's why I love you.
My mind's,
it is.
It's always going.
It is.
Hey, so Linda, thanks. I had fun tonight.
Thanks for inviting me. I love talking to different people about this subject. And DERREL SIMs, do we have 1 minute or do we have to wrap it?
No.
Okay.
I can cut it out.
I have to. No, but this is the thing. you have, like Daryl said, there's so many different belief systems. You have abductees and contactees. People that feel that we should be open to a spaceship landing and go with them, in fact. Other people that have had experiences that haven't been so positive, and they're, what the hell, I don't want anything to do with anybody coming down to save me. So I think everybody's opinion has to be respected. But when I met Daryl, it was right when I woke up to...
Oh, wait a minute. Somebody wants to know, do you do phone time?
Phone time?
Like, if they can't come to see you in person?
They can send me an email, and I am happy to pick up a phone and chat with somebody. Absolutely. But as far as, a session on the phone, no. But I will be happy to talk to anybody. But the thing is about Daryl, and this is why I love aspects of the people that do this work. Daryl was right there and very balanced when I woke up to what had happened to me, and it was at the conference that he was at. And he was one of the first people that had open ears and stood very strong, and I was extremely pissed off. That was the emotion that hit me, because I had just woken up to that dream I had. Wasn't a dream at all. It was a classic abduction scene.
But Linda, do you remember what they look like?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
What
it was just like he said, the tall Nordic, the doctor kind of guy in the middle, and then the gray. And it was just like he said. And the funny thing was, when I went up to Daryl at this conference, standing across from him was Richard Dolan's wife. Now, Richard Dolan is a very respected researcher. Like Daryl believes everything should be documented. Richard Dolan's wife heard me explain to Daryl my experience of them outside the bedroom window, and she said, Linda, I'm getting chills. She said, that's the same scenario, the same three that were in my bedroom doorway. And she said, and they left me with this, and on the inside of her arm, or outside of her arm, I can't remember, I think it's inside, is a triangle scar, which I've come to find out is a commonality among abductees.
Oh, I think we talked about that.
Yeah,
so,
I've mentioned.
Okay, so what is why do they do that?
It's the tattoo that seems to come with getting abducted at times.
Okay, so now, Linda, they say that when one member of the family is abducted, they're all abducted. So if she had that triangle,
right,
did the other members of her family have that triangle?
I don't know yet. I mean, I really don't know. She's got a couple kids. She's got a husband. I don't know. Because that was where I woke up. And Daryl, in his wonderful Texan genteelness, was very calming, because I was pissed. How can they do this? How can they float you out your window? How does that happen? We don't have that kind of physics here. So how is it they're doing it? And then I found Carla Turner and some of the people that he's talking about, very intelligent people that have thought this through. And I think for each person, you have to go where it feels best for you to go to figure it out. But there are people out there that have had experiences, people like Daryl and others that are open to hearing your story and can help you to get balanced about it and where to go to get more information.
And so those little grays, they look like they had no clothes on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So they must have been little robots, maybe.
Yeah, and there's a sense with them. There's a knowing that comes when you see them, that the Nordic, you see how intelligent they are. I mean, it's a knowing. The gray, I wouldn't give you the time of day for. I mean, you know that it's a worker bee type of mentality, that it's more mechanical, that they don't have that. At least for me, I sense they didn't have that component to them, that they understood emotion, that they didn't have that. They were there to do a job. That's why they were there to do a job.
But the Nordic, the one that looked more human,
yeah.
Do you think those are the more intelligent ones?
Oh, yeah, I think highly intelligent.
Okay, so now see, Daryl had, let's see, these people here, where are they? Oh, okay, here. Can you see that, Linda? See that?
The light's pretty bright, but yes, I can.
Can you see that? Okay, so there's the Nordic there. There's the lizard type, and I guess that's a gray. And I couldn't remember what that one was.
Yeah, I think he's got the one looks like a reptilian with a red around it, and
Right.
the one with the long hair, the Nordic that I saw, and I've seen him twice, had very short hair, like a buzz cut, very short hair,
Okay.
very human looking, blue eyes, white skin, Aryan like.
So then, what part does the reptilian play in this?
Well, Daryl has his own ideas that he's worked out on how they play into this. Because to me, a reptilian is like you showed it there. I mean, it's lizard looking, reptilian looking, and so I don't feel qualified to put my 2 cents in about that. But I know that they're people that have had interactions with them. It's been pretty terrifying for them.
Wow.
And you don't want to set people up for fear, because the thing is it happens to some people. Some people are walking around and don't have a clue. And the thing that gets me, what Daryl was saying, is that how people he has seen OCD, people that have issues, emotional issues, they don't even know they were abducted. And so the traditional medicine, Western medicine, is teaching these people, or treating these people, I should say, in a way that maybe isn't really helping them. It's covering it up. Their symptoms are from an abduction. It's just food for thought.
This whole thing was very fascinating to me. I never even thought about an alien being a robot.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought of that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I always wondered, do they sleep? What do they eat? Do they ever really talk to one another? Do they have families? And I mean, I had all these things. Are they like us at all? But I guess they aren't.
Well, no. And some of the research they're doing now, and they have been for a long time, is taking parts of the human brain and then building a machine, so they have both.
Unbelievable.
And that's yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I had fun. I was very interesting because I learned a lot tonight. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, Daryl's got a couple of books that are helpful for people who want to know more about implants. But if they go to his website, they'll get all that stuff there. Yeah.
So,
it was fun.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Next week, next Sunday, okay, you're not going to want to miss this one. Deborah Moffat. She lived in a house for I can't remember how many years, and there was demonic activity going on. It was horrible what that family went through, and they believe that the father-in-law conjured it up through the mirror, and this demon would do messages on the bathroom window, and he would use symbols. But the father-in-law never told them about it. And then I forget how the family found out about it. And she would tell the father-in-law, you've got to stop communicating with this demon. So we're going to find out the story next Sunday.
Yikes.
Oh my God. It's going to be
Yikes.
awesome. So join us next Sunday. It's going to be fun. Well, I'm going to enjoy it. It wasn't fun for her. But so everybody, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining me every Sunday. You guys are awesome. And so I guess we'll say goodnight. Linda, thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Always.
And everybody, I want to say goodnight. Have a wonderful week. And I love you all. And I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks so much, everybody. Good night.
Good night.